What's up, y'all? Welcome to another channel of Machine Head Repair Project. Today we're going to be working on this 1995 Toyota Camry. And the project's going to be, we're going to remove and replace the lower front control arm. So a customer was complaining about when they're driving, they feel like the brake is going out. When they're reversing or driving forward, they hear a banging noise. And so to see if that's the issue, you want to check a few things, a visual check. So you want to check the brake fluid, you want to check the brake pads, you want to check everything that you can think of. If it doesn't point out to the brakes, then it could be lower control arm, could be ball joint, could be the suspension, a few things. So in this case, visual check, you want to go underneath the car, check the suspension, the ball joint, the inner and outer tie rods, or the lower control arm. First thing you want to do is go in the car and drive forward and back, and you'll see a little bit of what it does when you're driving forward and back. So let me do that for you. While we're doing the test right here, you can hear the clanging noise, and then you can see the play moving forward and backwards in the lower control arm. So that indicates that the lower control arm or the ball joint needs to be replaced. So we're going to go ahead and remove and replace both driver's side and passenger side lower control arm. First thing you want to do is you want to jack the vehicle up and remove the wheel to access the lower control arm. So we need a jack stand and we need a jack. So the first thing you want to do is find the socket that will fit the lug nuts. So for this vehicle, the lug nut is actually a 21 millimeter. Most vehicle it'll be a 19, but you want to get the socket set and just make sure you get the right socket. So this one's a 21. Next, you want to brake before raising the vehicle up, jacking the vehicle up. You want to go ahead and break these lug nuts loose. Next, you're going to want to jack the vehicle up. And as you look under the vehicle, rear and front, you will see a marking that will look like this, or it will have an arrow that will show you that that's where you're supposed to put the jack. Now for the jack stand, you want to put it where the main frame of the chassis. So next you want to go ahead and take these lug nuts off, and you can turn it by hand once you loosen it up, or you can use a tool. Alright, after the wheel has been removed, you can actually access the lower control arm. And as you can see, the lower control arm starts from the rear and it follows through around under the knuckle. So on the rear, you're going to have one bolt, and then you follow along here, and then you have two to remove back there, one here and one there. And then if you go underneath the knuckle, you have three. 1, 2 nut and a bolt there. These are going to be I want to say 17 millimeters. And we're going to go ahead and remove those first, and then we'll go from these two, and then we'll go back here and remove the knuckle, I mean the lower control arm from the rear right here. So these three are going to be 17 millimeters. The one back here is going to be a 19 millimeter. And the two on top is going to be a 19 millimeter. As you can see, over time there's a lot of rust and buildup, and that's why it's so tight. So sometimes you're going to have to use impact. There's a lot of dust breakup here. See there's a lot of rust. So next you're going to use a pry bar, and you're going to shove it underneath the knuckle, and you're going to break it apart from the area. So as you can see, I'm pulling apart there, and now it's removed. So this part right here, as you can see, this is called the lower ball joint, and this lower ball joint is connected to the knuckle. And to inspect the lower ball joint, everything still looks good, because if the lower ball joint is bad, you see the rubber bushing will be torn, and then grease will, you know, squirt out of it. But it's still in good shape, and we're just going to replace the control arm. So next, before we remove those two bolts, we're going to go ahead and loosen this up. So underneath is two bolts, and we're going to go ahead and loosen it. If you look underneath, you got these two bolts here, 1, 2. We're going to go ahead and loosen that up and remove it. So we're going to loosen up these two 14 millimeters here. There's 1 and 2, and I'm going to go ahead and use the impact gun and go ahead and get that out. If you don't have an impact gun, you can use a socket wrench, but it's a lot faster for me this way. It's 1. And 2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this pry bar, and I'm going to lift that part up. Just like that. So back here, you have two 19 millimeters that we're going to remove. One is right there, and the other one's going to be back here. So there's two ways you can do this. You can do it with a socket with leverage, or you can just use a impact gun. Alright, so we have broken loose the bolt, and we're going to completely take it out. That's 1. And that's 2. So we're going to go ahead and remove those 2 bolts, and then last we're going to take that back one. So last but not least, we're going to remove this bolt here, and it's going to be a 19 millimeter. Let's see if we can get it in there, and go ahead and remove that. And there you go. So here comes the tricky part. We're going to go ahead and pull the control arm completely out after releasing all the bolts and nuts. Sometimes there'll be tricky, and sometimes it will allow us to take it out. Here is the bushing that's supposed to be in the back of the control arm. This is what makes the knocking noise, because this is not connected to the control arm anymore. So removing the control arm, the most difficult part is removing this, because there's a bolt that we need to take out, and the sway bar is actually in the way. And let me show you the sway bar. So that bolt is right there, and this sway bar is in the way. So you're gonna have to play and wiggle the control arm, and eventually it'll come out. So here's the new part. So let's go ahead and take it out of the package. So there's going to be a left and a right lower control arm. So I ordered these online from off of eBay, and you know, you can take your chances of where you want to order your parts from, but sometimes when a customer wants to go really cheap, you know, you have to find them a good deal. So I ordered these off of eBay, and the seller is actually called autoshack.com. So let's open this up, and there you have two of the lower control arm for the 1995 Toyota Camry. And it's very well packaged. It's in the box, it's wrapped in the bag. A lot of times when I order stuff online, especially on eBay or Amazon, you want to be very sure of what you're ordering. You want to make sure what the make, the model, the engine size, what side you need. If anything, you want to know what exact part you're in specific what you're looking for. So for me, since I've replaced parts before and I know what I'm ordering and what I'm looking for, you know, it's always good to look under the description, the size, the make, the model, and so on. So here you have the lower control arm. On this side here, you'll see an L for left, that would be driver, and this other one you can see it has an R for right, and that would be passenger. So with these two right here, This is what we're going to use to replace the parts on that 1995 Toyota Camry. So on the 1995 Toyota Camry, the reason why we're replacing the part is because a lot of times lower control arms, they wear out, because right here there's a rubber bushing. There's a rubber bushing in between here, and they over time they wear out and they crack, or they just completely disappear. Where do they go? I don't know. But once that rubber bushing is gone, and when you're driving and you're braking, this will hit metal to metal with your chassis or your frame of your car, and you know, you'll hear a banging noise. It'll feel like or sound like your brakes, but it won't be. A lot of times it would be. So let me show y'all the control arm back here. The reason why there's a lot of banging noise is because this is supposed to be in the center of this control arm by this rubber bushing, and over time, for this vehicle, this is a 95, so it's about 25 plus years old, will wear out and you need to be replaced. Same thing with right here. There's rubber bushing inside. Actually, this one's pretty bad. See, the rubber bushing is actually broken up and worn out, and that will cause a lot of banging as well. So this, over time, this actually needed to be replaced a long time ago. As you can see here, this is the new one, and that's how it's supposed to look. It's solid on both ends. And then here you see the seal that's keeping the bushing, that's keeping this mounting into place. So this is how it's supposed to look. I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison. The shape and size is the same. The only difference is this right here has some kind of bracket that I just took off. I'm going to clean that up, and then I'm going to add it on to this one, because it seems like it's a shim for gap, to put in the gap. If we don't put this on, the gap will not be exact and it might be loose. So whatever you see on one part, the old part, if it's not on the new part, you have to transfer it to the new part, because there's a reason for every part. So let me clean that up and put that on. So I've cleaned this part up here, and now I'm going to go ahead and add it on to there, and it looks like a spacer, so you know, it will fill in the gap, so it will fit perfectly. So I wanted to show y'all in this area where we're going to mount. Anytime you take a part off, you want to clean the area, because when you mount something on, you don't want any debris to be in between the parts, because it's not going to mount on correctly. So I'm going to spray some brake cleaner in that area, and then get my wire brush and brush that area. So that's always a good tip to do. Let me zoom into that area. So as you can see, that's a good idea to always clean the area when you're putting new parts on. Alright, after cleaning that area, you can see a huge difference. Now I can mount the part onto there. We don't want to clean all of that back there, just where it's going to mount onto. That's the most important area. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is you want to put this part right here back here first. So you want to slide that in, and it's going to be a challenge to slide it in. And then once you get it in, you're going to want to go ahead and put the bolt into place. And you're going to have to look underneath and find the hole where it's going to fit into. And there it goes, right into that spot. And then you're going to want to screw it. We're going to go ahead and put this top mount up. and try to put the bolts into place. Alright, after putting everything in place, you got those two bolts, and you put that single bolt there, and then on the bottom you got the two nuts and the bolt, and then those two 14 millimeters. These are 17 here, these are 14, and those two are 19, and the one in the back is a 19. Once you got that all down, then you're going to tighten it up, and after that you're done, and then put the wheel back on. So on the passenger side, I showed you how to remove and put back on. This is the driver's side I already put on. So those are the two bolts. You got the single bolt there for that, and then you got those two 14 millimeter bolts that connect, and then on the very bottom you got the two 17 millimeter bolts there, two 14s there, you got 19 millimeter there, so this was a little bit of a project because there was a lot of dust, rust, and stuff like that. So don't think this is going to be an easy project. This is a tough one. So I can tell you there will be some play that you're going to need to mess with. Is these rubber bushings. They're going to be, you know, they're new, brand new, so they're going to be tough, and it's not going to line up, so you're going to have to play with that to get it lined up. Back to the passenger side. So overall, I would give this project a 1 to 5. 5 is being difficult, most difficult. 1 is being easy. I would say this would be a 3. So here you have the left and the right driver passenger side old lower control arm that I removed. So as you can see, after years of driving and not maintaining, this is what will happen to your lower control arm. Over time they dry up, crack, or just break off, and they're, even in an accident, if you get sideswiped or you drive into something or whatever it may be, these can get bent up, and then it'll pull to the left or right depending on what side that it gets bent up. But these are very important to change out. If this video has been helpful, please click the like button at the bottom. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Any questions or comment, please leave it down below. And till next time.